What's up, guys? Welcome back to Babe and the Braids podcast. I'm Allison the Babe.
And I am Isaac the Braids.
Even though you're not braided.
Jinx, you owe me some braids. So yeah, I used to be braided, and like our relationship, it's seen a lot of phases. So is my hair.
We're really trying to go away from Isaac saying that in every single intro, but it's okay, well then why are you called Babe and the Braids? You have to explain. It
kind of fits. I mean, I like it in the intro. It kind of gives layers to new listeners who they may not know Braided Isaac, but either way, we're a podcast where we talk about pretty much our relationship. We like to say that we're giving advice, but I mean, we're really just sharing our experience.
I feel like we share our experiences and kind of talk about how we could have handled things better, what we would have done differently, how we think it helped our relationship, and any tips, really.
I mean, from different religions, different upbringings,
different races,
socioeconomic backgrounds. That's an intense word, but literally everything. We were super different. And then now we're married and we managed to date for 6.5 years. Some of that might have been from just, trying to learn those differences. But yeah, we're just sharing our story.
Yeah, so today we are going to be talking about the magical question that everybody seems to be asking us lately.
Which is, when are you having little ones? It literally, everybody knows it. And any point in your relationship, you have some type of question that's when are you doing the next thing? When are you getting engaged? When are you getting married? When are you having kids? Mm-hmm. So here we are in our phase of life where it's, when are you having kids?
I mean, every single person that finds out that we just got, no, it's not even that when they find out we just got married. It's literally every single person that just wants to get to know a little bit more about us. They're like, oh, when are you having babies?
It's almost like a small talk question. Like when you get to know somebody and you find out they're newly married, babies is the first question, but it's kind of an intense question. And what I've realized is if you haven't intensely discussed it amongst your internal crew, aka your relationship, it's actually kind of you don't really even know what to say. You're I actually don't know, and this is weird because we haven't talked about this.
Well, that's one point. And a second point is, and I've heard this more recently now that social media has been social media is a huge part of our lives now. I've heard women being kind of offended by that question because they're you don't know what I'm doing. We could be trying for 6 months and I could be having infertility issues. So you don't know how much that question might hurt.
Well, and there's this weird, it's a polarizing question. When people ask, when are you going to have kids? They're either wait forever to have them, or they're why are you taking so long? It's never
everybody has to get, oh my God. Yeah. When we were in Mexico for our wedding and some couple pulled me and Isaac aside. And they're oh, I heard you're getting married this weekend. Don't have kids for 10 years. Enjoy your, I'm just can you stay out of my ovaries, out of my uterus, out of my sex life?
Whoa. But seriously, so it's kind of this intrusive. I think intrusive is kind of the word, but how we've navigated it is, initially, I think Allie and I have done a decent job getting on the same page. We're hey, when do we actually want to have kids? When does this make sense in our life? And I usually just pull the old within 2 years, we're going to have kids.
That's a simple answer. But I mean, obviously we didn't start we had to obviously have a conversation where we discussed kids in general. And so I feel we should throw it back to when we started dating, because kids are a huge part of your life. If you decide to have kids versus if you decide to not have kids, those are very different lifestyles. And so you have to be on the same page, because Isaac and I talk about it all the time. If one of us didn't want kids, we wouldn't have gotten married, because that's a huge, that's something I don't want to have to push or shove on.
It's actually crazy you bring that up, because I told Allie within the last week, if she told me, hey, I don't want to have kids, I would probably be I don't know if we should have got married.
Yeah.
But we can only tell our story. So again, I said it at the beginning, our story is kind of weird though, because I think before we got married, which was, a year ago, 8 months ago, whatever, I think we really like the idea of kids. The idea. And then now that we're actually married, not that we don't like the idea of kids now, but we're kind of well, what we're doing is kind of chill.
Well, it also becomes very real. Isaac and I, now that we are married, we could have kids at any point. I mean, obviously God willing. And like, if there's no fertility issue, like if there's no problems, like we could literally decide like, well, do you want to have a baby? And it's just so weird because like people would be happy for you. Like you grow up in high school and you're like so apt to like, okay, don't get pregnant. And like college, don't get pregnant. And like engagement, don't get pregnant. And then it's like, oh, the gates are open. If you want to get pregnant, go right ahead. And it's like, honestly, very intimidating.
Yeah. And so you have that time where you're like, now that the floodgates are open and like, you don't have to dream about having kids and it's like reality. It like, you're like, shoot, okay, well, do we want to do this? So
it's no longer like a fairy tale. It's not like a dream. It's like shit that can happen like now if we wanted to.
Yeah, which can be like a comforting and like scary feeling.
I was going to say scary.
Well, we're kind of in different places too. Like I think I'm more ready to have kids than Allie is, but it can be comforting because it's like, shoot, like, you know, you have a kid, you can full send and just feel really good about raising a kid. But the other one is like, oh shoot, we're going to have a kid. You know, kids are super expensive. That's unfortunately my thought.
Yeah, that's my thought is like, I feel like I have to give up so much. But before we get into like what we're kind of thinking now, when Isaac and I first started dating, we discussed that kids would be very important in our lives. Yeah. And like, I remember, I mean, your answer actually kind of changed because when we first started discussing kids, do you remember how many you told me you wanted?
I mean, I said I wanted like 8. I mean, I was like, I'll have as many as possible. I kind of still feel that way. Like I'm not like anti a massive family. Quick fun fact. One of my teammates told me he wanted 10 kids the other day, but I'm kind of like, I'll have as much kids as we have money. As many kids as Isaac, much money.
What?
Because it's true. Like you're taking on the financial burden, but either way, I've changed because I said a bunch then, and now I'm kind of more, you know, out 3 to 4, which I think is more aligned with you.
Yeah. So now that it is realistic, like Isaac said, he thinks more about the money aspect, whereas I start to think about, well, I am going to carry this kid for 9 months. I am going to be obviously like the caretaker, you like being in the NFL, playing for the Colts. We don't know, like basically like, one, we have to decide when we're going to get pregnant around the NFL, which a lot of people probably wouldn't think about.
Yeah. I mean, that's an absolute game changer, and not to just kind of jump around, but it's
hard to not jump around because there's so many factors that play into having kids.
Yeah. So I think what you were about to say though, and kind of the theme here is there's an evolution of how you feel, how many kids you want to have.
Well, and I was saying I'm going to be like the one having these kids. And so while you might not financially think we're ready, I like don't know that I want to give up like my body yet. I don't know that I want to give up
drinking.
Drinking for 9 months. I'm not an alcoholic, but hey, I like to have a good time. And like one thing that is coming up in our lives is we have so many weddings next year. And I was like, I know alcohol obviously doesn't make or break like your experience. However, for me, I'm a huge social drinker. I like to have a drink. I just feel like it like allows me to have like a good time and like open up and have good conversations. Not necessarily that it's like you need it, but I just was like, there's no way I want to be pregnant for these weddings and traveling. And like one of the weddings is in Italy. Like, yeah, I'm sorry. When I go to Italy, I want to go to wineries. Like I want to have a good time. It's in Tuscany. Like,
I mean, that's going to be crazy as a side note, but there's also something kind of fun about like the Planned Parenthood where you're like, when do we want to have a kid?
I thought you meant like Planned Parenthood, like the place, like the location.
No. But like
it is kind of exciting.
It's fun because you can kind of like strategize and be like, when do we actually want to have a kid? But
well, and also for me, it's kind of motivating because I'm like, okay, well, if I get pregnant in this month, or I'm gonna try and get pregnant, I want to be in the best shape of my life right now. I want to have a 6-pack. I want to be super hot. I want to be like, I want to go all out. And then when I get pregnant, I'm gonna be like, that was fun. Now I'm gonna get fat.
Now I'm having more babies and more babies, but it is crazy because, you know, a lot of people that are listening probably aren't in NFL relationships. Like, you know, statistically there's only so many NFL players, but we really do have to game plan around when to have a kid. Because the age old question in the locker room is, if your baby was born on the Super Bowl, what would you do? And it's actually super funny what guys say, but again, the point is we totally have to plan around a season.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like for me, I wouldn't want to give birth during the football season for my first baby. I feel like, second, third, whatever, it probably wouldn't matter. But for my first baby, it's like going to the hospital, coming home from the hospital, having like a week after you're home, like being able to spend every waking moment with your significant other and your new baby, and like going through all of these changes together, these new experiences, which really wouldn't be possible if you have practice at 5 a.m. the next day.
It's funny because like I stress about the dogs not getting to know me. Like I stress about
we just got a new puppy.
Yeah, like our puppy getting to know Allie more, and then I'm like trying to play catch up. I can't imagine having a baby like during training camp. Like imagine if the baby was born like 2 weeks before training camp. So for people listening, when training camp hits, like I'm leaving to go to the hotel in like 20 minutes after this podcast. So that's like how intense it is. I come home once every few days. And so like having a kid during that time would be crazy. And that's why it's so important for us to plan, because the alternate situation would be having a kid in the off season, which is like I have nothing.
Yeah, Isaac literally has nothing. Some things are like very like they're not mandatory. So actually, one of my best friends, Bree, which if she's listening to this, I love you, but she is pregnant with her second baby right now, and she is due in October, which during the season, it's a little bit better than having your baby during training camp. But she has like expressed like it's going to be hard. Like she already has a toddler and she has 2 dogs. And I'm like, hey girl, if you need me to come out, like let me know. And on the,
wow.
What?
I was gonna say you actually might have to go out, but go ahead.
I mean, she lives in California, so twist my arm. But I actually just talked to another girl. I'm not going to say her name because we just became friends because she's on the Colts. But she's currently pregnant, and her husband made the decision to schedule an induction date so that he will be home. And she's due in the middle of the season. So they're scheduling an induction date
on the off day?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure like the day before the off day or something to make sure that he will be there for the birth of their child.
Or bye week probably. But either way.
That would be crazy if they timed that up really perfectly, huh?
It is crazy. And I do want to, because this is fun, I think for people to listen, because people probably do wonder, like, what would NFL guys do?
Oh, yeah. Like, how does it affect NFL couples?
So every single year we ask this question to guys in the locker room, which I already mentioned. Would you go to the Super Bowl or go to your kid's birth? And it is almost undefeated. Every single guy says the birth. Every single guy. Every single guy. I'm not
surprised by that. You know what's crazy is that when you brought up that question, I've never thought about it, but I would search high and low. I would search the entire US and I would find a doctor that would induce me a week or 2 before, depending on my due date. Like it depends. Like 37 weeks is technically full term. So if I was going to be 37 weeks, I probably wouldn't. But if I was going to be around 40 weeks, I'd be like, let's get this thing out of here. I'm going. Like, damn right, I'm going.
Well, again, this is why it's absolutely crucial to plan.
To pre-plan. It is crazy that Isaac and I have, like, there are months where we are like technically right now, if we got pregnant, we would be fine. It would be in the off season.
It'd be in wedding season though.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is like, we are technically in the clear right now. So like if we had a last minute decision, like, oh, actually we do want a baby, we would be fine right now. But once like December hits, January, like absolutely not.
So and it's like funny. So our plan for, if people even care, our plan is definitely, I would say we'll have a kid within 2 years. Like, do you think we'll have a physical baby within 2 years?
I don't think we'll have a physical baby in 2 years. I think I will definitely be pregnant.
Yeah, we will.
In 2 years.
Because you'll be pregnant within a year, probably.
I guess, yeah, in the 9 months.
That's so exciting. So
that just gave me the heebie-jeebies.
That's kind of our plan. And again, as an NFL couple, and we're committed to this, we're totally planning it around the NFL season.
Just thinking about that, I feel like I have so much I want to accomplish before I get pregnant. I need to make like a vision board or something after this. Maybe I'll make it into a YouTube video, but I feel like there's so many things, so many goals I really want to work on, even just like getting my health like totally aligned. Because once you have a baby, like whatever you didn't do before, you're not going to do after.
I'm kind of curious, like for people listening, I want people to comment, like, because we've never had a kid. It's kind of something like on the podcast, it's hard to talk about. And that's why this isn't super long, but because we don't have a kid, it's only kind of like
it's only pre-kid. Like, yeah.
But I'm curious, like kind of what people's experiences are and what girls focus on before, because, or like what changes. Cause you're like, I want to have the perfect body before. Like, do people usually do that? I
don't think people put that much thought into it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I feel like because I'm married right now, I feel like I can prepare my mind to like understand that I'm going to be pregnant in the next year or two. And so I feel like maybe for me, it might be different, but for somebody else that wants kids right after they get married, it's probably not something that they're thinking about. Like, I feel like you and I are just like enjoying life when we have this downtime. Like, it's literally just you, me, and the 2 dogs and the cat. So it's like, I feel like it's kind of freeing for me to be able to like, I don't know, I feel like kind of enjoy the process before thinking I'm going to have a baby in my stomach, you know? Like, if we had planned that we wanted to get pregnant right after our wedding, I probably wouldn't have thought about it, because I would be like, well, here's the wedding. I'm planning this. I'm planning that. I'm planning that. And so it's kind of like exciting to have something to look forward to, but you don't really have like the end date.
Yeah. The more we talk about kids, and this is, we're rambling a little bit. We're just talking. Again, we're just sharing our experience.
Isaac, that's what a podcast is.
The more that we talk about kids, the more I'm like a little like, do I want to have a kid right now? I feel like I'm less ready than I think I am. But I feel like...
No, but you're never ready. You're never 100% ready.
I know dudes right now who they were like Drew Tranquil. We'll throw his name out there. Great dad. He has 2 kids. He's 24.
Yeah.
He was made to be a dad.
Yeah.
I think I'm like that, but
so is Sam Tevye. Like,
intimidating.
You can tell like he loves being a dad.
Yeah. Another one of my teammates has a 2-year-old, and he's like 24. I mean, it's just crazy. It's not crazy in that sense. It's just, it's not what we've done. So it's different.
Well, I mean, now that you guys have been here for, I don't know, 15 or so minutes, Isaac and I did have a pregnancy scare when we were dating. And we joked about it not too long ago. I think when we were moving out to Indiana, we joked about it. Like, we would have a 3-year-old right now. Do you know how insane?
See, that kind of hypes me up, though.
Like, guys, I wasn't pregnant. It was just a scare.
Yeah, it wasn't like, that's a whole nother conversation, what I was about to say, but that didn't happen. That hypes me up, though. The thought of having a 3-year-old seems so tight to me.
I feel like I want to skip the baby phase and go straight to, like, Riker's age. Like, he's like 2 or 3.
So another fun fact for people is I definitely want to have a kid while I play. Like, that is like a goal of mine, because I think that's something that even if the kid doesn't remember, it'll be crazy for a kid to be like, yeah, like I went to my dad's practices. Here's a picture. Mm-hmm. How crazy would that be?
I definitely think it would be super cute. And I'm just thinking of like photos and videos of like our little daughter, like wearing a little tutu and like having your number on the back. I think that is so stinking adorable.
Yeah, that would be crazy. And that would be the cutest thing ever. And I'd probably, quote unquote, melt.
Yeah, it's crazy that they're like so much goes into like planning when you want to get pregnant. And I know that a lot of people out there, things go wrong, infertility, or you get pregnant and it's unexpected, or you don't have like the joy of like, I don't know, like enjoying the process of like even talking about it or whatever. But it is crazy, because if you really think about like if you really take the time to make a decision, like if somebody tells you, oh, when would your ideal time to get pregnant be? And there's just like so much like, well, yeah. Like what are your dreams for like your job? Like how will a kid affect that? What are your dreams for like how old you want to be when your kids are graduating high school? Like, do you want to be a young parent? Do you want to be an old parent? Do you want to accomplish like traveling before you have kids? For me personally, I will not let kids slow me down in terms of traveling. I know I will not. If it comes like,
we say that now, we're young and naive and like, oh, we'll never let that.
No. I think you can put your mind to anything. If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Wow, mind over matter.
There are so many, like the bucket list family. They travel full time and yet they have 3 kids.
That's intense.
I'm not saying I want to travel full time, but I'm saying I don't necessarily think a kid has to be a bad thing. I think you can still continue to live your life with your kid added in.
I agree. I don't disagree with that. I'll say that. Well, without us rambling too much, I kind of like that podcast, and this is for the listeners too. I like that we just kind of talked, because sometimes on our podcast, I feel us giving a lot of advice, like we're gurus, but like this is a conversation we would have about kids at the dinner table, and you guys just got to hear it. So we still don't have a conclusion really, but I think my little piece of advice would maybe ask people, have you thought about having kids versus when are you going to have kids? Because it's just kind of an intense, intrusive question that newly married couples get absolutely tired of.
Well, it's kind of the equivalent of like if you and I were talking to somebody random and we were just dating, they're like, oh, when are you guys getting engaged? Like nobody asked that because it's a one person's decision. But like now kids are like this public thing that we have to talk about.
It's like fun. Well, this is another question that I think is intrusive. When people go, and they always kind of whisper it, they're like, are you trying?
Ew, no one has ever asked. People have asked you that?
I mean, like, and I feel like this might be TMI. My answer is always like, well, we're not trying. Like, it's one of those.
Oh my God. If somebody ever asked me that,
man,
I would be like, I don't know. Are you having sex with your husband?
Whoa, that's an intense question.
No, it's not, because are you trying? That's like, oh, are you guys having sex?
Are you sexually active?
I would ask that question right back. How's your sex life?
Are you sexually active?
Is it steamy? Are things going okay in the bedroom?
Steamy was a weird word.
Nobody has ever asked me that question. And I promise you, if any of you ever ask me that question,
oh my God,
I'm going to ask how your sex life is. Not that I want to know. I think that's disgusting.
Well, now that we've gone off on an aggressive tangent, that's pretty much it for the podcast. This is a short one.
Isaac has to go to the team hotel. However, I know it's super important to me that we get podcasts up every Wednesday. So,
well, and has nothing to do with kids, but like for the people listening, we should have a podcast on the camp schedule, because like, no joke, we literally are like, I don't come home.
Yeah, you don't.
It's crazy.
Oh, wow. Our Chipotle is arriving right now, which is another reason this is a short podcast. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Isaac and I actually today, when we were planning to film this, we were like, what topic should we talk about? So if you guys have any topics you want to hear us talk about, literally anything, because we've been long distance, interracial, different religions, everything top to bottom. So leave your requests either in my Instagram DMs, or you can leave it on the YouTube video, because if you didn't know, this is also a YouTube series as well.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Babe and the Braids.
Talk to you guys soon.